Yeah.
For the fiscal.
Yeah.
And where this puts us is 550.
It would put us at 550, yes. Yeah, that's what was in the jail also, that's the budget. Whew. Yeah.
Morning,
There you
Michelle.
go.
How are you?
I am great. It's Wednesday, it's day before turkey. 4-day weekend for me.
I was gonna say, yeah, we're off for 4 days.
That's right.
That just means you have to work extra hard today.
Well, Monday will kill us.
Or Monday, yeah.
I know we talked about it, but
Yeah. We'll make a couple of cents. My shit name so doesn't have one either.
Barry, how are you? I haven't finished it, no, I'm about halfway through it. Ready for Thanksgiving, Michelle?
I am.
Be here before we know it.
I know it. Kind of be low key. I'm not going nowhere. I got a sick uncle, so
Oh, really?
we don't know. None of us want to take him, and he's going through chemo.
Mm.
So, be the first year in 56 years.
But I got all the ones we usually see, I've got them all set up for Zoom.
They're
So I'm gonna try that. We'll leave it.
we just don't want to put him in jeopardy, you know.
Are you the backup?
She's learning how to do them. Well, when you type them, it's one thing, but when you see it, you know, then you kind of get a different feel of it. I can scoot over a little bit and sit right here so you have a
That's
smaller.
fine, honey. I'm right. I'm good right here.
You can't write that good. I can scoot over. Look, no,
I'm scared of Robert.
well, then I'll scoot towards him. You sit right here. Here, give her.
Michelle, she said she was happy. You know, the employee is always right.
Yeah.
You on the sale?
Well, that might be easy to write.
I'm sorry, I can't help you. Why is she looking
I tried. I
I'm so
tried.
sorry.
I tried. That's all I could do.
You want to call roll? You cracked me up.
I'm good right here. But you just.
Is Greg not gonna be here?
I would be the last one to know
Oh.
that.
Who else are we missing? Dayton.
Judge.
Judge.
William.
William and the sheriff.
Judge has, he's been here, because I saw his phone, he was on the phone earlier.
Well, it's 9:27, that's, he'll be here right at,
Yeah.
he'll walk in right as it's breaking 30. Sheriff, how are you?
Morning.
That's the disappearing man.
I know it. I told him last week he had to get better, more new pants.
Fact.
Yeah.
More slack in the back than the coat tip.
If it wasn't for his shirt taking up all that space.
I got it tucked around too.
Yeah. Wish that was my problem.
I know.
Miss Janet, you're being awfully quiet.
I didn't even know you were down there.
Oh, yeah. one's there.
I need that mask.
I know, I need that mask.
What's on my shirt?
I don't know what I,
She said,
where?
Sugar Bells.
Oh, I like that one.
I started to buy a bow tie like that.
You should, it's in right now.
Yeah, I need one of those.
They've got some, Kim's got the little things that you can adjust it.
Oh, okay.
It's better. I don't have a big head, but I have big ears.
I might have to get, I probably got 10, I don't know. Yeah.
I've become like a little fashion accessory.
Uh-huh.
It's like the other matches with their outfits. I like Robert, it's just in me.
Uh-huh.
If I have to wear one, I might as well make it work.
Mm-hmm.
I've kinda got used to them now, so
I'm over it.
they don't bother me.
Yeah.
What's that?
29.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's
Good morning.
Thank you.
Morning, Myrtle. Good, how are you? Good. Get the computer screen fixed on you?
Did you get Facebook running?
Steve's in there right now.
Yeah.
They said they got it fixed, so it should be. It was good, they were able to upload it pretty quick everywhere. Hey Janet, I appreciate you
No
uploading
press.
that video. Y'all did that quick.
No press today?
Last week, last meeting.
Took me forever to get it up there on there, but,
Did it really?
yeah.
They're working from home right now.
Oh, that's right, they're working from
They're
home.
working from home right
It
now.
was a learning curve for me.
So
You
he'll
know,
take it
the
off
ID
the Zoom meeting, I mean, he'll take it off Facebook or, that's right, they are working from home. I forgot that too.
I didn't know that.
I'd like to begin with a historical prayer from the words of John F. Kennedy in 1963 before Thanksgiving. Today we give our thanks for the ideals of honor and faith we inherit from our forefathers. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. Let us therefore proclaim our gratitude to Providence for manifold blessings. Let us be humbly thankful for inherited ideals, and let us resolve to share those blessings and those ideals with our fellow human beings. Let us gather in sanctuaries dedicated to worship and in homes blessed by family affection to express our gratitude for the glorious gifts of God. And let us earnestly and humbly pray that He will continue to guide and sustain us in the great unfinished task of achieving peace, justice, and understanding among all men and nations, and of ending misery and suffering wherever they exist. Amen. And now the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the meeting to order and ask the clerk to read the roll.
Managers Graham,
Present.
Thompson, Constantopoulos,
Present.
Blanton,
Here.
Davis,
Present.
and Elkins is out.
It appears we have a quorum. I'll now ask Joe Barnes for his presentation regarding the courthouse bell.
Joe Barnes, 895 Sidwell Lane, and I want to thank you all for the opportunity to come back before you for a few minutes to, we've been kind of discussing back in the spring, we had things rolling pretty good, I thought, on maybe getting something done for the placement of our courthouse bell, and of course that got sidetracked. And so we've kind of discussed and thought now may be a good time to come back and try to get started. Of course, we know now that the weather would be a hindrance. Going into winter time here would be, we don't know what the weather would do and stuff, but that'll give us some time to to get things together because it's gonna take quite a bit more planning. At the stage I'm at right now is deciding where to put the bell. I've done a lot of work the last couple of years on this throughout the county, talking to people, and getting their thoughts and everything. The biggest majority of the people that I've talked to agrees that the courthouse bell needs to go in front of the courthouse. And so I've got several weird answers. One or two wanted to put it in the middle of Main Street and do away with the parking on each side and divert Main Street around each side, but we know that that's not going to happen. And then I had several people said, put it back where it belongs, where it came from. But we know that's not going to happen. So I agree with the biggest majority of the people. The bell should be displayed in front of the courthouse. I had an landscape architect to kind of draw up a little bit of a sketch of how that the bell may look. Presentation up here, you can see it from pretty much every angle there. In this drawing here, he has a domed roof on it because we talked about a little bit about wanting a copper domed roof on it, but the price of that is going to be, pretty significant to have a copper roof put on it. And he didn't really have any idea as to the size of what size Christmas tree that may eventually go in there. We know that the plans are there's supposed to be a tree planted there, but I asked him to just kind of sketch in something there, to give a little bit of idea, of how much room that we actually have there. Of course, with this year's tree, that's a pretty good sized tree in there this year, and you're probably gonna not be lucky enough to have that kind of tree very often, in the future. But on a kind of a note, this the size structure that would be there would be about 10 foot square, and this will then, the bell will be complete. It will be displayed with the wheel and everything. And I'll show you another drawing here in a minute that we kind of got a copy from. And another thing that he didn't have, around the bottom, there would be about a 4-row brick high around the very bottom, and it will be glass enclosed. Only, I think the back side facing the courthouse probably would be better with just a solid wall with a steel entrance door, because you have to get inside to do maintenance on it periodically, maybe wash the windows once a year or whatever, And so in the next slide is just an option or two of roof design. This is on a little building out in College Park. It's just this building is about a 10-foot square, close to that, and has a peak roof design on it. And then in the next slide is a little building that they built out here next to the walking track out here. Now, this picture looks like this building's actually longer than it really is. It's only maybe 12 foot long or something like that, but this is a more low profile roof, which which I would prefer rather than the peaked, because it would keep it down a little bit lower, you know, you see more of the front of the courthouse, but that, you know, that's just personal. And the next slide is more a realistic, what we kind of took this is at the school in Carlisle, Kentucky, at the main school office buildings and stuff there. And of course, their bill is not only about half as big as ours, but you can see what I was talking about, the brick around the bottom, and they have the glass all around on theirs with a sliding glass door in the back. But I really think we would probably be better off to have a solid with a steel entrance door. But as far as to the point I'm at right now is deciding if I'm going to be able to do this, put the bill there, because the people that I've talked to that's halfway not committed to funding, but just talking about funding a little bit, says that if it doesn't go in front of the courthouse, you know, that they wouldn't be interested at all. But now I feel like that I can get a pretty good amount of funding, maybe not the whole thing, to get this job completed. A couple of other expenditures that would be that may be harder to get funding for would be the architectural drawing, which I have to have first, probably. And I was told that I would have to take it probably before the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'm sure that the drawing would probably have to be done before I could take it, you know, because the planning and zoning, that's something that I absolutely know nothing about. And so I'd have to get some pointers from people and some help on trying to get it lined up, you know. But, and then another expenditure would be the cleaning. The cleaning, the bill's gonna have to be cleaned up, and that would have to be done by soda blasting, so it wouldn't damage the bill, you know. And I'm sure, I feel certain that I can get help taking the bill apart and everything, but I don't know of anybody locally here that does this type, you know, of cleaning and stuff. So that would be something else that I'd have to check into. But the main thing that I'm asking the court is, one more thing on that front there. I think we discussed and looked at it, and I think we'd be best on this concrete pad that we're going to put the bell on, to pour concrete all the way back to that steel fence there, and about a 14-foot section. If you look out there, can we go back to the first slide? If you see those marks on the sidewalk there, I'm pretty sure that those, stepping it off, those are about 7 foot square, I think. So 14 foot would be just a little bit bigger than it's showing in this picture here. And that way we could set it back 2 feet from the street and have 2 foot walking distance on each side of it. And that way they wouldn't have to try mowing around it, and it'll be a little bit wider in the back next to the fence, but still yet, you know, it'd be hard to mow back there and to maintain. So I think we would be best just to pour So the main thing before I get any more involved in it is I would like to ask the court for their approval to install the bell at this location. And if that works out, then, then we can go ahead and work toward seeing what we can do. Like I said, we were doing pretty good in the spring, but of course this virus, really set things back, and so that's what I'm asking of the court today is for an approval to install the bell here. And if they approve it, another thing I will have to have done, of course, we'll have to get the utilities located to see if there's any utilities underneath there and whatever, but that'll be down the road. So that's all I have, and given with that, I want to wish every one of you a good Thanksgiving, and hope you're all safe and your families all stay safe and you have a good meal. So thank you.
Any questions?
I have a few comments.
Go ahead.
Joe and I have been working on this in the spring, and we haven't met. We met a contractor out there, and Joe had his ideas on a piece of paper that he drew up. I appreciate what Joe's been doing on his own there. I too have been working on my own. I actually had 2 design professionals look at the site and go around the courthouse, and both of those suggested, in order to keep the clean lines of the courthouse, that the bell should be located in the back. And I've talked to multiple people. Obviously, I traveled in different circles than Joe, and the folks I talked to didn't want it in the front. It's just a matter of opinion. But the ones I talked to said, since we've got those nice clean lines in the front, we shouldn't disrupt those. The 2 I talked to had different ideas about where it should go in the back. I'm not really sure that we need a covered structure. The bell that the city took out 28 years ago looks just like it did 28 years ago. So as far as protecting the bell or anything like that, I really don't think we need a $10,000 structure to protect it. And I don't know what it would cost, Joe, but I mean, that's kind of a figure that contractor threw out that day, especially by the time you add plate glass to it, because if you don't put plate glass, and I'm not even sure glass would work in this day and time with what we have going on. Even if you could keep glass in it, you'd have to go out there and clean it probably every day. So that's another maintenance headache.
Well, I mentioned
so
plate glass.
Joe, can I finish?
Yeah.
The other part of that is I've looked into getting it cleaned, and Alex over here at Settlers, he's never tackled anything that big. And I told him when I met with him, I said, since the virus is going on, we don't really we're not in a rush to do it. But I'd like to keep that local, and he thinks that he could, after he looked at the bill, he thinks he will be able to do it. He hasn't looked at it yet. I didn't want to get him out in the virus and all, but he seems to think that it's something he could handle. And I didn't want to get it started as well, since we're doing the painting of the courthouse. Spring would be a better time after Buster gets through with the courthouse painting, so we can go and relocate it then. But and I told Joe the day we met up front, I disagreed with him. I didn't want the bell in front, and then those 2 design professionals confirmed that. I don't know who Joe talked to, and maybe we can get the 3 of them together, Joe, so that all 3 of them can talk. But I think the front's a bad place. I think a structure's a bad place, and I definitely believe glass is a bad idea.
Any
glass
other?
would actually be a poly. It wouldn't be plate glass. It would be the unbreakable
Polycarbonate?
polycarbonate or something. But anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 6, consider approval of the minutes from the November 12th, 2020 fiscal court special call meeting.
Motion approved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 7 is a note in your minutes, pay increases as authorized by the CCFC Administrative Code. Compensation Plan Number 7, A and B. Increases will be effective the first payroll in December of 2020. Item number 8, consider approval of the bills list. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 9, consider approval of the transfers. Do you have a motion?
Motion approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
What's the transfer from the jail to the general fund?
The transfer from the jail to the general fund is a deposit that got deposited into the wrong account back in July, and the finance officer now found it during an AOC audit. It's but it's a state payment that got for court facility fees that got deposited into the jail that should have gone into the general fund. You're welcome.
And then the $100,000 transfer from the general fund transfer line item into the jail, that'll cover us through about how long?
Hoping through December, but that's the hope.
And how much does that make our transfer so far? Do you know?
If that transfer gets approved, it will be $550,000 for
Okay.
the fiscal year.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 10, consider approval of an order to purchase 2 POW/MIA flags to display at the courthouse and annex using community funds not to exceed $400. I'll make that my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Judge, I have some.
Go ahead.
I've been in touch with the good folks, our good friends at Kentucky Bank. In the spirit of patriotism and community service, they wish to purchase these flags. Been in touch with Larry Hall again. This would make this really a truly community project. Hopefully we would get a story in the Winchester Sun and a photograph of the flags going up. I think that was Mr. Hall's true intent, is to make this a community-wide project, you know, maybe interest of the citizens and veterans and what have you. So I would ask that the maker of the motion withdraw that, and we allow the Kentucky Bank to purchase these flags.
Trying to think of how to amend this.
Postpone it?
Well, I mean, I'd like to get the flags up the sooner the better, but
I think you could administratively just allow the flags to go up and just disregard this order.
I'll tell you what, let's, can we take the purchasing language out of this order? Just make it an approval to fly 2 POW/MIA flags at the courthouse and annex?
It's fine with me.
That's fine with me.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
I'd
Any opposed? That
Like-
motion carries.
like to thank Kentucky Bank for that offer, too.
Is that Darrell Terry?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Item number 11, consider approval of an order to appoint Alan Curtis as interim compost program and solid waste coordinator. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 12, consider approval of an order to appoint Perry Wilson as the interim Clark County CSEP director. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Just a question, Judge.
Yes, sir.
Has Perry been doing this since Gary has retired? Has she been functioning in this?
She's basically stepped into that role, and I've basically spoke with one of the authorities in CSEP and said she would be managing until we could have a court action.
Okay. Any intent to make this, I know the court's really good on making retroactive orders. Since she's been doing that, would it not be appropriate? I mean, because I usually vote against them, but in keeping with what you usually do, you know, I was surprised to see it wasn't retroactive. Just a comment.
Any further discussion?
Judge, I'll be recusing since it's a member of mine.
Any further discussion?
Just a question, Judge. Is there-
Sure.
With respect to this program, I know that you and I have discussed its longevity before. Have you gotten any guidance recently on how much longer this program even has life in it? I know it's federal funds.
It is supposed to wrap up within about 2 years, but, and Perry may be able to speak better to that. Whenever I spoke with Gary about it, he said 2 years, but it always seemed like there was a possibility it could go longer. Yeah.
About 3.
3 years. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 13, consideration of the Kerr Building indemnity agreement. Do I have a motion?
Judge, even if you don't get a motion, I had a little bit of discussion, but absent a motion, we'll just let it die. But if we do have a motion, I have some discussion, but don't look like we're going to get a motion.
Anyone want to make a motion for the sake of discussion? Okay.
I'll make a motion for the purpose of discussion.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, Robert, you had some discussion?
Just a couple things. Then in number 6, it said term, they could discontinue it when they wanted to, not us. The other part is that there's no doubt that will destroy the parking lot. And I talked to the folks at WMU and Solid Waste and over in the city and different ones. And it just appears to me, because I haven't talked to the folks here, Mr. Daly, I guess was his name, Bailey. You know, there's 2 parking places there on Broadway that could be done away with. They have an access point to the back, because I remember as a kid that's where Newberry's used to get their deliveries. The semi would pull in there. So I think they would probably rather have the parking places for their tenant than allow access to their own trash receptacles. Obviously, the issue here is saving money. Folks at WMU told me that if they went to a dumpster, which would be the small dumpster, it would be quite a tremendous savings to them, because now they have those 5 Herbie Kirby's and they're picked up daily. So the motive here certainly is financial. But, you know, I would encourage, and I'd like to be a good neighbor. I'd like to see people in downtown be successful. And to that end, you know, I would encourage them to, and again, the director of solid waste was out this week, so I didn't get a chance to talk to him. But I would encourage them to at least look at the option of using that rear access and asking the city to relocate those or do away with those 2 parking spaces. It appears as that would be sufficient room to get the small dumpster in. That probably would have some upset tenants, because if you notice every day the same cars are sitting there, so I'm sure that those tenants are the one using them. So, you know, it's just, and I think quite frankly, I think it would be real difficult to have them repair our parking lot once it's destroyed. So, I certainly stand against this proposal. And encourage them to seek a viable alternative, because, like I said, I do like to see folks downtown succeed, and that's no exception with the Kerr Building.
Further discussion?
I had a couple things, Judge, and I think I mentioned at least one of the last time this agreement, and looking at this agreement, again, they've got Clark County, Kentucky as the indemnity. Then they've got Smith P. Kerr as the indemnifier. Smith P. Kerr's dead. That's the original developer, and what the building is named after. That's not the name of the owner. So I mentioned that earlier, still wasn't addressed. And noticed on the signature page, Mr. Dissel or Giselle signed, looks like to me in the wrong place. He signed as an MD.
Looked like it too.
Clark County signature. That's
Looked
where-
like it.
That's where this was proved, you would sign, Judge. So, looks like there are two in this, our documents we were given in the packet, there are two LLCs. One is Bailey Property Management LLC, the other one is, Per Building Restoration Partners LLC. And I'm not sure who, I just tried to look it up on PDA and what name it would be, to see who actually owns the property now. It looks like to me, even if you were to enter into this, and I'm not for it, you ought to have the owner of the property on there, in addition to, if there's a different entity managing the property, that they ought to be a party to it as well.
I agree with you on all that. The reason that this is on here is because these individuals keep on contacting us, asking basically if we're willing. I think what we need to get to is decide if we correct all of the errors in the paperwork, would we or would we not be willing to assist them? Obviously, there's various legal errors in their paperwork they submitted. We could fix those if we needed to, but I don't want to bother with doing all that if we're not in favor of allowing them to use that space to begin with. So that's really the point that I'd like us to reach today if possible. And that's why it doesn't say approval on the agenda, just the discussion. Any further discussion? Okay, I guess we'll do a vote since we do have a couple of motions. All those in favor respond by saying aye. All opposed?
No.
Nay.
That motion fails. Item number 14, approval of refinance documents from CAECO.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I think just a note, Judge, is that Deputy Judge sent the finance documents, about $36,000 savings is what it was gonna be over the,
That's what CAECO has estimated.
it's pretty good savings, and our rate was dropping down to 1.7, I think.
Anything over $30,000, the calculation I like to use, Daniel, that represents a 1% cut in county property taxes.
Yeah. So, good work, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 15, discussion and consider approval of the 2021 Employee Health and Benefits Package. Dana Neely?
Thank you, Judge. I believe the insurance committee met with Howard and Jan regarding the self-insurance proposal. Actually, I've met with Howard and Jan as well. They sent me on their behalf to answer any questions you all have regarding either that proposal or the Anthem renewal or any of the other options that were presented to the court.
So, of course, Danny has represented us as broker for Anthem on insurance. He can also serve in that capacity with the self-insurance entity that we have spoken with and presented at the last meeting. Do we have any questions regarding our various options? I think Danny will be able to address both.
Danny, one quick question. Did we receive any other quotes from Humana or United Healthcare, and were they
not United Healthcare. Humana sent every option they had available, which the lowest cost option, which would have been a extremely high deductible, was not competitive with Anthem's renewal. United Healthcare sent a declination letter stating that they would not be able to offer a competitive proposal this year, either fully insured or self-insured. The original Anthem renewal, the underwriting renewal was a 72% increase. The first renewal that was presented to Judge Pace was a 40% increase. And their final proposal was a 34% increase.
And my understanding is, with the entity that came to the last meeting, the self-insurance option would be, how much less expensive? Do you have that number off the top of your head? Are you passing something out on it?
So their proposal was, $850,000 is what they would have budgeted.
And that would be $850,000 with the current benefits. The increase of Anthem would be less benefits, correct? That's what I thought.
The increase, the increase of Anthem is the same.
Didn't it move up the deductibles? Am I wrong about that?
No, we provided proposals for upping deductibles, out-of-pocket costs, and all that, I just gave you a brief overview there.
Thanks.
On the right, that's, the options you asked for on the Anthem renewal. So the one thing, Jan wanted me to point out was on the proposal, the self-insured proposal, the HSA contribution was not included in that $850,000. So, based on the renewal figures, that contribution, the $141.08 would be in addition to the budgeted amount.
So how many do we have on HSA right now? About 40?
On the renewal, yes, it was 39 on the
39.
renewal. Give or take, that's a fluctuating.
That's about $72,000 then, right?
Yes.
Because the premium, what I'm looking here from what they provided at the last meeting is the option 3, which was the $75,000 deductible. The total cost to us was going to be $462,430.20.
For the, yes, for the stop loss for the insurance premium, correct.
And then, so anything else budgeted then would be used to pay out claims.
Yes.
So that would roughly, if you did $900,000, whatever that amount, subtract that amount out, so closely about $450,000 would be to pay out claims.
We'd have to up it by $72,000 if we were gonna do the HSA contribution to keep the two plans even. That's what he just said.
And
No, the plan would be the same, it's just.
the plans are exactly the same. You're just paying the claims instead of.
But the amount that we would need to budget to pay out on our own, we would need to make a monthly contribution, right?
Yes. the way
And that
you
would
do
be
it
about
now.
$72,000.
So the way you do it now, you make up the difference between the PPO and the HSA, and you put that in a separate HSA account that the employee gets to keep, and it rolls from year to year to year. Now, if you were trying to fix those costs, you could change that from a health savings account to a health reimbursement account, and just state that we will only fund it so much each year, and you can control those costs more. But the employee would no longer keep that money. They would, it would be provided by a third-party provider. No longer Win First Bank, but you would put the money in.
So we would still be putting money into an HSA with this account?
We don't have to.
No,
But
I'm
if we
just, I'm
wanted to-
asking if that's what we would be continue to do is to HSA.
If we wanted, we can do whatever we want, is my understanding. We can adjust the deductibles as we want. We can put it in HSA money if we want. If we don't want to, we don't have to. But if you wanted to mirror the Anthem proposal, under the Anthem proposal, we put money into the HSA.
But if we go to option 3, their individual deductible is the same as the PPO, is that correct?
Well, they're mirroring the PPO and the HSA. They're gonna provide both plans. Nothing's changing. So what they're proposing is, nothing will change. You'll have your two plans. Everyone enrolled in their plans will keep their plans. Everything stays the same. And their estimate was, with your premium and your paying claims, and this is just, their actuarial basis, it's $850,000 is what they're thinking. And then in addition to that, you would fund your HSA if you're keeping everything the way you have it now.
You would agree, Dan, and if you don't, I mean, please tell us, because we're, we make the decision, but we're relying on your expertise and advice. But would you agree then that regardless of what it may cost us up front, this year, in the long term,
Sure.
30+% bumps every year. I mean, it's gonna get to the point where we can't pay this.
Sure, and that's, one thing, Nevin agreed to come back today, and he's actually, he went with a plan that's a little different than your all's, but, you know, Nevin definitely feels he will reap the savings down the road, and if it's managed correctly, then yes, that's certainly the goal. I mean, can I tell you you'll save money? I don't, no one knows, the actuaries don't know, no one knows what types of claims will be paid out in the future. You can only look at what's happened in the past. The last 2 years, the claims have been horrible. The previous 3 years, you actually had rate decreases. So, you know, you just, if you agree you're ready to take this step into self-insurance, you just need to continually fund it, no matter what the reserves look like. You constantly fund it, and then when the big claims come, you're ready to pay those out. And the goal is to, yes, save money in the long run.
One thing I did when I'd called earlier this week and spoke to that Howard Danzig, and one thing that I did not see or realize is that there is an additional aggregate insurance that we can pay, which would be the maximum of what our exposure would be, whether that be $1 million or $1.5 million. They were going to try to get me information on that to see what the potential cost. If it's a minimal cost, maybe that would be something. If we decide, as the court decides to go down this route of self-insured, it would at least cap out what our maximum exposure would be if something did go bad.
That'll be ready in the next couple of days. They'll have that for you. So.
And from my understanding, it was a pretty minimal cost, was it not?
Yes, yes.
For that aggregate
Yeah,
coverage?
I believe they provided that back in the spring, and it'll be probably, I don't really want to guess, maybe 8–10% more than what was provided back in the spring.
I don't know.
But yes, and you could cancel that at any time, so if you decided. And typically, they did go through it with me and told me that that aggregate amount, most groups run 70–80% of that amount, so usually they never max out.
What did the Health Insurance Committee come up with? Recommendation?
Janet, I don't think there was any recommendation. It was more so reviewing information.
I wasn't there.
When do we have to make a decision?
When's the last possible time we can make a decision, Danny?
With getting employees enrolled, really it becomes a logistics issue. We were hoping to be able to schedule an enrollment next week on December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and a virtual enrollment. And that's American Fidelity, yes. If you decide on the self-insurance option, I mean, that's basically a spreadsheet going in. So, I mean, you could push it out further.
So self-insurance, we would have a little more time. Anthem, we need to move more quickly.
Anthem, it would be up to, you know, our office to make sure any changes were made, all the forms are signed. You know, you can push it off some, and we could take care of it. Just the enrollment's not going to look like it has in the past.
Well, I don't think it's going to look like it has in the past,
Yeah.
regardless.
We really need to make sure the American Fidelity, that's your Section 125, that is compliant. And Lori Nichols has it scheduled to do next week. So if the court could approve at least the supplemental benefits, if you were wanting to table the health insurance option, and at least the employees could get that part enrolled, you would be compliant. And the last part would be getting your health insurance in place. You know, the other option, your CS benefits, dental, and your voluntary vision, that came back flat again for the 13th, 14th straight year. But you have the option. You could roll that premium into your self-insurance and just pay it out and make that a self-insured option as well. Or you can keep the dental plan, the voluntary vision.
In your experience, is there one way that's typically more efficient or cost beneficial than the other?
Cost beneficial, I mean, if you're going the self-insured option, then you would be pulling that premium in, and the odds are you're probably not going to pay out as many dental or voluntary vision claims as you are, collecting the premium.
There's something I asked Mr. Danzig at the last meeting, and I'll ask you the same question regarding traditional insurance as we've had with Anthem versus more of a self-insurance option, which we're kicking around. Would it be fair to say that if we did have another particularly bad or even worse year so far as claims are concerned, that typically, obviously that would be our responsibility under the self-insurance plan, but that would also be reflected simply in the next year's premium under a traditional plan?
Under the traditional plan, yes.
So really, one way or the other, if you have a bad year, you're going to get it. It's just a matter of when you get it.
You're going to have to pay it out, yes. It's a matter of budget. If you have the funds on hand to pay it that fiscal year, if you're budgeting for the next year based on an increase.
Danny, one quick question, because I remember last renewal we did last year, it was about a $200,000 increase, was it not? So I mean, we're talking between 2 years, a $500,000 increase.
Double.
So I'm saying, even if you didn't have the stop loss insurance that you're talking about, the winter exposure, it sounds like that's going to be available. I know you always have the possibility you're going to have 2 or 3 catastrophic illnesses among employees, and blows that number up. Statistically, that's probably not likely to happen, but we've got about 100 or so employees. I think I'm in favor of the self-insured option, just so we can try to get a handle on the cost increase.
I think I am too. I think I would agree with them.
Do we want to see what the cost of that stop loss would be before we make a decision, or do y'all just?
Doesn't sound like it's gonna be enough to make.
It's gonna be less than the other way, I
Yeah, less
believe.
the other one.
Yeah, I think so.
I think,
Sound like.
I'm ready to make a motion now, and I'll make a motion, Judge, to adopt the self-insured option that we presented last meeting.
Okay, a motion has been made to adopt the self-insured option. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion. I do have a question. When you say adopt the self-insured option, just for clarification, is there under the same numbers that we currently have and with 2 different plans, including a contribution to the HSA?
Yes, Judge, unless there's a compelling reason not to, then I'll certainly entertain. I wasn't on the insurance committee, but just based on what I've heard from the last 2 meetings, my own understanding of it, I think that's the route to go.
Yeah, because if they're mirroring the plans and what they propose, that deductible for that HSA is quite a bit higher than what it is for the other option.
Well, the only reason anyone would take the HSA is it's an educated guess. If you feel like you're going to be healthier and not have as many claims, you take the higher deductible, and then you get that savings account. It gives them an option. And the reason you make the contribution is to keep the plan somewhat equal. One thing that I would like to add, just in general, the requirements, my understanding, and Danny, correct me if I'm wrong, the requirements under the law, we have over 50 employees. We are responsible to provide health insurance and to pay for half. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So there should never be any conclusion drawn other than we are far exceeding what we are legally required to provide right now in Clark County. And I think a note should be made by everyone who's watching the dollars and cents of our budget. We can't guarantee that's going to happen in the future. I would suggest to this court that the financially prudent thing to do is to make a note in the back of everyone's head. If even we're doing what we can if we go with self-insurance to try to control costs. If costs continue to go up at some point, we are either going to have to reduce benefits or we're going to have to ask employees to contribute. One or the other. Those are the only options that don't end up with us in the red eventually if these increases continue.
One last question in regards to, in your motion, Magistrate Davis, the stopgap, we can approve that at a later time so we can actually know exactly what the amount of it is. Okay.
Ken?
Do we need to make any decision today, Judge, goes to this motion that I made as to the dental and the vision? I know you mentioned that a minute ago. We need a decision on that today, whether we're gonna roll that in with the self-insured or not.
I do not, if you all want to discuss that further, but if you have a feeling one way or the other that.
I think we should go ahead or I think we should roll in what we can into self-insurance, if you'll accept that as a friendly amendment to your motion. And then what would you suggest we do so far as the ones that haven't increased? Life insurance and so forth.
The life insurance, you need a motion to renew the.
Separate?
Yes.
Okay.
Life insurance.
All right, so Magistrate Davis, you're willing to accept as a friendly amendment, we will roll in dental and vision.
I will, Judge.
Okay.
That's fine.
And one last question, just thinking about this, just for our employees' notice. Our family plans, employee, spouse, and so forth, if it's being taken from their check now, it'll move to what these renewal rates would have been, and that will be going over into our fund for funding, correct?
Yes.
For funding these claims out.
Yes, you're gonna pay it the same way as if
Mhm.
it was a fully insured plan.
So we're still providing an employee at no cost,
Correct.
but then if they have an employee spouse or family member, then they're gonna be paying the premiums that's on this renewal.
As far as the employees are concerned, nothing's changing. It's, you all are paying the claims instead of income until you hit the stop loss.
And one last thing is when I talked to Mr. Danzig, he had said that we have an option of doing weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. And that the insurance company, the contractor, is basically gonna be pricing everything out, and then we're gonna get one invoice for those. They're actually gonna be cutting the checks out to the doctors. We will just get an invoice for our portion that we're responsible for.
That'll come from the third-party provider, and it's a gentleman, your contact would be a gentleman named Jack Abbott, actually stepped out and spoke to him in the hallway. Yes, so you'll get, I believe, did you get the copy of a sample invoice? Yes, you'll get an invoice however you set it up. You'll be able to see, but because of HIPAA, you won't see what actually is going on. You'll just see where the claims are paid, and then it's an ACH transaction, either bi-weekly or monthly, and you'll pay those claims.
And Alicia, we'll need to set up a new account for this too, won't we?
All the bank accounts.
Further discussion?
I agree, I think it's legal.
All right. Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion does carry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Danny.
Oh,
Yes.
well, that wasn't on the agenda. Well, can we put that under health and benefits package, William?
What is it?
The American Fidelity Life Insurance.
It's a benefit.
Yes, it's a benefit.
Okay. Then I'll entertain, is there a second motion to approve American Fidelity for life insurance benefits? Supplemental.
Yes, it's Anthem Life and American.
Okay. Anthem Life and supplemental through American Fidelity. Motion from Magistrate Thompson, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Magistrate Davis. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries as well.
What was the proper name for that?
What should we name it,
Right,
Amy?
how should I name that?
The Anthem, Group Life Insurance and American Fidelity Supplemental Benefits.
American Fidelity Supplemental Insurance?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you all. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Motion to adjourn, Judge.
Motion to adjourn has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. 10:24.
William, have a good Thanksgiving.
How are you today? I'm good.